It's time for another edition of Lewis at Large with Warner Lewis. 60 minutes of smart talk radio with interesting guests from all walks of life begins right now. So sit back and enjoy. And now, from the flight deck, here's your host, Warner Lewis.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck. And of course, that means some smart talk radio rolls on in your future, and this segment, no exception. Interesting topic, this segment. We're going to be talking about the Lawrence Arts Center, not only what its role is and what its mission is and the great opportunities they offer, but also, of course, the Lawrence Arts Center's Free State Festival. It's a 5-day celebration of film, music, art, and ideas that's coming up, actually, in the next few days or so. We're going to be talking to a couple people that know their stuff for sure. We're going to be talking to Marlo Angel. Who's Marlo Angel? She's the director of film. She's the director of the film portion of the festival. She has done this for several years, and she's also on staff there. We'll also be talking to Ben Alvers, who's the exhibitions director, which involves curating the galleries there. He's also serving as the Free State Festival director and overseeing all aspects of the festival. So with that as an introduction, here we are. Ben and Marlo, how are you, my friends?
Great. Thank you for having us.
Well, we're happy to have you here. This is a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. As you've already stated, there's several different aspects to this project, and within all of those areas, there are dozens and dozens of things happening throughout the duration of the festival, the 25th through the 29th of June.
Right. Well, let's do this. Let's give our Lewis at Large listeners a little bit, an opportunity to know you each a little bit better. Ben, let's start with you. You're the exhibitions director there, but share with us also the other work that you do with the center and outside of the center.
Well, my primary job here is exhibitions director, so that involves, the curation of the schedule and curating a few shows. We have several gallery spaces here, and so that's a full-time job in itself. But I also run a concert series here called 940 Live, which we have in our theater. That's been going on for about a couple of years now, and various other projects that would be too much to talk about right now. But the other big project is this Free State Festival, which Marlo. This is kind of her baby that started a few years ago,
right?
And has blossomed into, what we're planning for next week. So it's exciting, and there's a lot to take in for the folks that are going to come around for this thing.
Right. And again, Marlo Angel, you are the official director of the film portion of the festival, but you also have a past with the Arts Center as well as some other organizations in town. Tell us about that.
Sure. Yes. So I curate the films for the program, and then I also teach film classes here at the Arts Center. This year, as part of our grant from the NEA, the Art Town grant, we were able to bring our film programming outside in the community. So I taught classes with Boys and Girls Club and with Van Gogh Incorporated. So we had a lot of fun with that. And each of the filmmakers in those programs made a film for the festival.
Well, for sure during the interview and definitely at the end, we will remind everybody, again, they're hearing this interview on a Sunday morning, but the festival, again, will just be a few days away from there, and we'll share with everybody what's going on sort of day by day. Let's talk a little bit about the Arts Center. Just talking about the roles that you all have there would kind of lead us to believe some of the things that go on there, and many that have lived in town for quite a while are aware of the role that it plays in our community. But I'll throw this to each of you. What do you believe the Arts Center brings to the community and the contributions, and what is so special to you about being involved?
Well, I think if you break down what the Arts Center does into some categories, it's exhibitions, performing arts, and visual and performing arts education, right? So there are really three areas that we really focus on. Everything that we do falls into that. And the Arts Center has been going along for nearly 40 years now. And so there's a history there. There's roots in the community that are still there. And we've built off of that into various ways by branching out into into a national audience and getting attention from various places from around the country. The NEA is an example of that. That's directly connected to this festival. But also it's allowing us to bring in artists from around the world to come here for various reasons, whether they're choreographing or they're exhibiting or they're speaking or they're teaching. That's all founded in what was started here 40 years ago. And so I really, to touch on the festival for a second, I think the festival is really a microcosm of all of what we do throughout the year. It really just a lot of it gets outside, and is really packed very densely within a short amount of time. So I think it's really exciting to be able to do this this summer.
Right, Marlo, how about you?
I think the Art Center is kind of an amazing incubator for our community, and it's a place where people can come to create art, to talk about art, to observe art, and really become part of the process. And I think that's the cool thing about the festival as well, is that, in some cases we're bringing in artists to create work while they're here. We're also celebrating existing work, people coming in with completed films, and they're exhibiting them here for the first time. And we're really engaging with the community. So each of our film screenings has a discussion afterwards. So that's really been the core of what we're looking to do, whether it's in our music and our art, in the films, and even the ideas portion. It's really to engage the community and to talk about ideas and to interchange between our national artists that are visiting and our local artists that are celebrating their work as well.
Right. Let me ask you something. It may not be fair, but if you talk, I think, to sort of the John Q. public in Lawrence, there may be a perception that, the Art Center, isn't that where kind of kids go to do special projects and learn about the arts and do things? But the Art Center really has something for all ages.
Yes, it's true. I run into that every once in a while still, but certainly youth programming is an anchor here and has been and always will be, because it's important to have that. But that's really a fraction of what goes on here throughout a day or a week or a year.
Well, if you just joined us again, yours truly, Warner Lewis, from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio, and our special guest this segment. Of course, we are talking specifically Lawrence Art Center, and more specifically than that, the entire Free State Festival, formerly the Free State Film Festival. We're talking to Ben Alvers, who's the exhibitions director there, as well as Marlo Angel. She is the film director, or the director of the film portion of the festival. And this is a very, very impressive lineup. There is something for everybody. Let's do this. Why don't we go ahead, and again, I'll throw it to either one of you that would like to start, and let's talk a little bit more globally before we get specifically into the schedule. How was their criteria, or what was their criteria for films that people will be able to see? What was the thought process behind it, and how long is the planning stage? I assume that once one festival's over, the next one, you look down the road to the next one, but tell us a little bit about some of the planning.
Sure. Yeah, the planning, you're right. It happens immediately after the previous festival. There's no real strict criteria and things that I was looking for. The one thing that's always been a passion of mine is to have discussions. Showing films that people will leave the theater and talk to their friends about it in the lobby, talk to the filmmakers after the screening and Q&As, things that will leave an impression on you. I didn't want to show anything that you would walk away from the theater and just immediately go to a restaurant and not think about that film. Something that will leave you a bit of an impression and to engage a discussion in. One of the things that I tried to do this year just a little bit was to look at soundtracks. We have some really strong music documentaries in the program this year, but even beyond that, in our narrative films, just looking for a really creative use of music and in the soundtrack, because that was sort of the interest in mine of the collaboration between art forms. I think that's one of the cool things about the Art Center. It's not like we have all these separate departments doing their own thing, but there's so much crossover between performance and education and exhibition that was kind of an interest of mine in seeing, okay, it's a film, but what is the relationship between that film and music? Trying to show some experimental films by some of our visual artists in town, and that kind of thing. So there's more of a kind of going to those boundaries and finding out where do the arts intersect.
All right. Ben, what about you?
Well, this is, because of the NEA grant that we received, it certainly fueled a lot of the additions that we have here with this year's festival. I worked with Marlo a little bit in the last year with some of the music and programming connected to the films that she had selected. And then this year we kind of continued that partnership with building some of the things she mentioned before. But a lot of what I've been working on with this festival are these outdoor installations and projections, and that's really new territory for us. And it's new because of the technology. It's new because of the quantity of places that we're attempting to illuminate in some way. And so, the criteria for looking at that, I worked with an artist named Luc Dubois, he's an artist that teaches and lives in New York City, and he's shown with us before, and he's a real asset. He's kind of an advisor for me in many ways, and with this festival, he served that role as well. So he and I co-curated the outdoor pieces that are going to be taking shape here next week. And the criteria for that were multifaceted. One was we just kind of wrapped up a centennial celebration of William Burroughs here at the Arts Center, and those celebrations are still happening around the world. But we had a big exhibit of his work in the early part of this year. And with some of the artists that we were interested in bringing here to Lawrence, that was of interest to them because, Lawrence is the home of the estate, the William Burroughs estate. And so there was interest in connecting some way to Mr. Burroughs. But I would stop short of calling this a William Burroughs festival. But there are a few pieces that do touch on his cut-up technique or are based on his writings. So we have that. And I would also echo what Marlo said a little bit with music. Lawrence, to the outside world, I think Lawrence has a bit of a music reputation. I certainly knew of it before moving here. And so I think that's always there. I think maybe for the community, maybe it's not as apparent because you're just used to it. But I think it has a reputation, and it has a DIY sort of reputation as well. And I think some of those flavors will come out in the projections and presentations throughout the city. That will be basically as soon as the sun goes down, we'll be turning on these things, and I'm pretty confident that it's not been done before in this way.
Again, we are with Ben Albers and Marlo Angel, both with the Lawrence Arts Center, but we're talking specifically now about the Free State Festival, which used to be the Free State Film Festival, but with the addition of some other exciting elements, this coming week is going to be pretty special. Again, there were some early pre-festival events that are now behind us, but let's walk through the week, and let's start with Tuesday. Let's just sort of take it day by day. What can people expect to see, hear, listen to, do? Let's just start with Tuesday on the kickoff.
Tuesday, coming next week, the comedian Mark Maron will be here, and he's going to be performing in the Lawrence Arts Center in the theater. That show is sold out. But he is kind of a pre-festival kickoff, I guess we could call it that. But he is an interesting selection for this festival, I think, for a number of reasons. One, he's a heck of an entertainer. Two, he's been involved in the film industry for a number of years in various capacities. He currently has a pretty popular television show called Maron on IFC, but his roots, he's a musician or a musician at heart, and he's very knowledgeable in the world of music and plays a little bit, and so you hear that and see that in his performance. because really most of what he does is very autobiographical. And so Marlo and I kind of thought that was a really nice marriage of a lot of different aspects to what we're trying to do with this festival. And so, whether or not that translates to the audience, who knows? But I think it was a great selection, and I'm really looking forward to seeing his show here next Tuesday night.
Okay. And Marlo, tell us about Wednesday. Boy, you've got that's going to be quite an evening down there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's really exciting. We have Johnny Winter, his award-winning documentary called Johnny Winter Down and Dirty will be here, making its campus premiere at 6:30 on Wednesday night. And what's really wonderful is that it's going to be followed by a Q&A with the filmmakers and with Johnny himself. And then we'll follow that up with an outdoor free concert out in the streets right in front of the Arts Center at 9 o'clock with Johnny. And what's amazing to me is the documentary is a really beautiful story, kind of about how, he rose to such fame, and then you get to see some excess that happens. And then he completely turns his life around at a late age and kind of, has a rebirth in a way. And to me, what was really cool was to see the parallels a little bit between him and Marc Maron, who's our Tuesday night performer.
Right.
And Marc Maron, he's talked about it many times with getting really close to suicide, and then was able to reinvent himself later in his career. And so both of these stories, I think, are very engaging and empowering for the audience. And just to me, it's what I've always loved about a film festival is it's a community experience. So you're watching the film and you're not sitting at home in front of your TV and just turning off the lights when you're done. You're engaging with both your community members and then also the people who made the film, and we're very close to the story. And here we have such a unique opportunity to sit down with Johnny and to discuss with him the issues that were, in the film. And I think that's just the most beautiful thing that can happen in a festival. It's the whole reason to have a festival. So we're just very honored to have him perform.
Right. So you've got a showing of the film Down and Dirty at 6:30, which you need to purchase tickets for, and then there's a Q&A, and then after all that, around 8:30 or so, Johnny Winter and company are going to be doing a free show right in front of the Arts Center. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that in essence is free, so to speak. There is a VIP sort of pass holder area. We'll talk about VIP tickets later, but anyway, okay. So Johnny Winter, film and performance Wednesday night. What about Thursday? Take us there.
Sure. Thursday night is going to be wonderful too. We start off at 6:30 with national storyteller Kevin Kling. His stories are on NPR All Things Considered. He's a recognized author and a playwright, a very entertaining, very engaging storyteller, and we're very honored to have him. The National Storytelling Network is moving to Kansas City, so this is kind of like a way for us to embrace that part of our community. We do Story Slam here at the Arts Center once a month, and this is kind of our big cap of that event and a real celebration. We're going to combine his performance with some local storytellers as well. So. And then following that, a little bit of a different transition. At 9 o'clock, we have the film Grant Hart, Everything, The Life, Music, and Times of Grant Hart. And we'll be followed with that with a Q&A from the filmmaker and with Grant Hart himself. And again, it's going to be another one of these wonderful opportunities that a festival brings because he will actually perform with a live band afterwards. So it'll be an amazing show. And
again, that's inside at the Arts Center main stage, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Yep. All right, and wow, already just those 2 days right there, pretty packed with some incredible entertainment there. Take us to Friday.
Friday, I guess I can jump in. Marlo will follow up here with there's plenty more film programming to be had, but Friday and Saturday we're going to kick off the outdoor projections and performances in the evening. We're going to have a stage that'll be set up at 9th and Massachusetts in front of U.S. Bank. And let me see, we're going to start that, I believe, around 6 o'clock on Friday evening. We'll have a stage there. We will also have a stage over at the Cider Gallery, which is in the Warehouse Arts District in East Lawrence. And we'll have live music from local bands and other types of performances that'll be taking place simultaneously. From 5 o'clock on. That's also Final Friday, right? So that's a big Lawrence happening each month. So you'll have everything else that's already scheduled with all the galleries and restaurants and other venues that'll be open and doing their thing. And then we have all these additional performing opportunities for people to walk around. Hopefully the weather works out and people are able to migrate up and down 9th Street to both these stages. But there'll be live performances happening from 6 o'clock till probably 9. And then once the sun goes down, we're going to turn on all these projectors and lights and hopefully light up a good part of downtown and East Lawrence and see what happens. Some of them, you'll have to look at the schedule for detailed information. There are some performances that started at a specific time, but we're going to run all of them until about 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday. And then Marlowe's got some events happening in the Arts Center that night as well.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. We have a film called Jimmy P. that takes place. It's a true story about the Menninger Clinic in Topeka. And so it stars Benicio del Toro. And it's a drama about someone who's misdiagnosed. He's a World War II veteran, misdiagnosed with schizophrenia, and then went to the Menninger Clinic for some psychoanalysis. And so it's a really dramatic movie straight from Cannes. And it'll be a fantastic Q&A afterwards. We have some Native American panelists, Dan Wildcat, Kate Twist from Post Commodity, and we have one of the actresses, Misty Upham, will be there for a Q&A. So we're super excited about that, and that's at 6:30 on Friday. At 9:30 on Friday night, we have a film called American Interior, and that stars Cliff Sherlock, formerly of the Flaming Lips, and he will be here for a Q&A afterwards. So it's a wonderful documentary, and I hope everyone comes out to see it.
Okay, and again, with other things even tossed in between, quick practical question before we head to Saturday here, and that is, people are thinking, okay, what about that downtown parking garage? Will I be able to park there? Do you tell us about that?
Yes.
Okay.
We've been told yes, it shouldn't be an issue because the another event that's happening simultaneously is the Tour of Lawrence, which is the bike race.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah. No, it's going to be. We've had many meetings with the city and working with them. They've been very helpful in making sure that we're able to navigate into downtown for those that are coming from various parts. And I think it's going to be fine. There will be a bike race on Friday night in front of the library over on Vermont.
Right.
So we'll also have a live performance out there by a band called Hearts of Darkness, which should be a lot of fun. And I think that starts at 8.
And again, a quick reminder here: we are talking with a couple people that know their stuff. Indeed, we're talking to Marlo Angel and Ben Alvers. They are with the Lawrence Arts Center. They're also, for this discussion, with the Free State Festival, formerly the Free State Film Festival. Another quick piece of information here. We'll, as we begin to wrap up, we'll remind you again. But we are talking about. We are just hitting the highlights, the tops of the trees here of this multiple day festival that's coming up this coming week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But there is specific information about tickets, about performance times, et cetera, at lawrenceartscenter.org, and you can find all of it there. All right, well, let's just, in the interest of time, let's move to Saturday.
Sure, I'll go ahead. We're going to have, the ideas portion of this festival is we have several partners, the biggest one being KU. They're helping us out with what they're calling a lightning round, which is a series of short, is it 8 minutes? Mm-hmm. 8-minute presentations by all sorts of people from the community and from the university. They're going to be in a variety of topics, whether it's art or something political or something very localized. It's just a real quick, high energy presentation that could go just about any number of ways. And I think there's some pretty interesting folks that are coming out for that. And that's going to begin at 10 a.m. on Saturday. We have films that Marla will talk about that'll be going on throughout the entire day. We'll also have that U.S. Bank stage open again at 9th and Mass. And that runs from 1 o'clock until probably around 8 o'clock at night. And then we'll have the outdoor projections. We'll fire them up again on Saturday night and do this all over again. And we'll cap off the outdoor activities with a performance by Quixotic, which is a performance group based out of Kansas City. They'll be performing out here in front of the Arts Center. And all of these outdoor things, I should tell everybody, these are absolutely free. A lot of them are very, very kid-friendly. If you can keep your kids up past 9:30, bring them out to Quixotic, because I think that'll be quite a spectacle to see what they're going to do in front of the Arts Center. I think they have some aerial act that's going to be suspended from the front of the building. But Marlo can talk more about the really great lineup of films that are taking place that day.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a packed day. We start off really strong with a film called Ernest and Celestine that was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, and that's completely appropriate for kids. It's 10 a.m. on Saturday. The other side of the spectrum, we have a film called The Sublime and Beautiful, which was made entirely in Lawrence, and it stars Blake Robbins and actress Laura Kirk, and they've gone on to receive several awards for the film. Blake just won an award in Milan at the Milan International Film Festival for Best Actor, and they'll both be here for a Q&A. We'll also have some panelists about grief that will be discussing the film afterwards, because it's a very dark story, but really beautiful, very character-driven, dramatic film. So it'll be quite a fantastic, fun-filled day.
Well, we're talking about Saturday, correct?
Yes.
Well, we can't let the discussion go by without saying we're going to run The Wizard of Oz and Dark Side of the Moon, right?
That's right.
I was just thinking that. And
and by the way, you guys go ahead and share with our Lewis at Large listeners, if you do not know about this relationship, these two will tell you.
So The Wizard of Oz, everyone knows this classic film, right? I don't know when it was or who discovered it, but some clever person discovered that if you started the album Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd at the moment that the film starts, there's this weird sequencing that happens with the music and the visuals. You turn the volume down on the film, and you just listen to the music, and you play that. So, and I've done this before, and it's pretty far out. The thing is, though, is that Dark Side of the Moon is about a 45-minute record.
Right.
And Wizard of Oz is an hour and a half, maybe, somewhere around there. So what do you do with the rest of it? Well, some other clever person recently experimented with some Radiohead albums and put in an album called Kid A, and you put it at the end. You know, after Dark Side of the Moon ends, then you fire up the Kid A, and there's this other sequencing thing that happens that you just kind of have to see to believe. And I've not seen it in a theater. I'm really excited to have the volume cranked up and sit back in the soft seats and the air conditioning and see what happens. But yeah, I think it's going to be a riot.
And that's at midnight on Saturday. So get your caffeine in you and have a good time. Again, that wraps up Saturday. Hey, we're beginning to run out of time here a little bit. Quickly run us through Sunday and as the festival wraps up.
Well, I think there are still several more films. There's one event at the Granada Theater that I would talk about for just a second, and that is a documentary about the musician Nick Cave called 20,000 Days on Earth. 20,000 Days on Earth. And it's about Nick Cave, the musician. And so we're going to, the same kind of formula where we have the film, and then we're going to have a live performance after that. Well, this live performance features a band called the Cave Girls, which they're based out of Kansas City, and another band called Kirsten Paladin and the Key Party. Both female bands, or primarily female bands. And so they're going to do their own sets, but they're going to interject some Nick Cave material into their sets. And I think that's pretty cool, and it's really exciting. And that's at the Granada. And again, that's a $10 ticket, but I think it's going to be a hell of a show. And Marlo can talk more about the films and the programming on that day.
What's great about those two female bands is they've also contributed songs to a short film that will be showing. It's by Women of Lawrence Film, and it'll show with the feature film I Put a Hit on You, and that's at 5:30 here at the Arts Center. And I think that's just a wonderful combination and experience where filmmakers work together with musicians. And so that's why we really wanted to highlight those groups and to celebrate them in a way that shows their collaborative aspect. So I think that's essentially what we want to get out of the festival, is bringing these different groups together, between musicians, artists, filmmakers, in audiences and just get the discussion going and collaboration started. And I think that's the beauty of bringing in all our national artists and having them collaborate and work with our local artists and just having those connections made. I think it's just going to be a wonderful 5 days here at the end of June.
Well, if you are into film, if you're into music, if you're into the arts, if you're into the Arts Center, and just general the body politic and culture indeed, it is the Free State Festival, expanded this year from the Free State Film Festival. It runs June 23 to 29. That's this coming Tuesday through this Sunday. An extraordinary lineup of events. We have been talking to Marlo Angel and Ben Alvers, both of them working closely with the Lawrence Arts Center in a variety of capacities, bringing extraordinary talent and entertainment here. Please take advantage of that. I'll let you guys, as we start to wind down here quickly, where can people find out more information, not only, guys, about the schedule, but also how they can get tickets for the events they need tickets to and all the specific stuff that we didn't touch on here today?
Our schedule and our tickets, everything, all the information and descriptions is all online at freestatefestival.org. And you can always call the Lawrence Arts Center at 785-843-2787 and talk to someone at the front desk or come by in person. It's going to be an amazing thing. There's so many wonderful things going on that it'll be a blast.
Well, Marlo, Ben, thank you so much for being our guest, and best of luck to you. And we're looking forward to a very special festival.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You bet. We'll be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.